stuff.
Yeah, I bought a new computer that has nothing else on it other than that stuff. So we'll see.
We'll go to that 3-person stream. Now we are live. People can see us. It is JG, Neil in the middle, and Gabriel on the right side of this particular stream. It's great to see you guys again.
It's great to see you, Jay. Gabe, how are you all?
I'm okay. How about you guys?
I'm good. Carson had his first soccer tournament of I guess it's not first one of the year, but it felt like the first one of the year. First soccer tournament since February. This weekend in Jackson, Tennessee. So it was incredible how good just a little feeling of normalcy was. Like to go to a youth soccer tournament and watch. He's playing U16, so it was actually fairly good soccer. He's playing up a couple of years. And but anyway, it was just kind of fun just to, you know what I mean? It felt normal.
Yes. Yeah.
I do know that.
I stayed in a hotel a couple weeks ago. That was different. Hadn't done that in a while.
So tell me, how does a hotel work, Gabe?
You give them a card and they give you a room with beds and a shower and everything. I don't know if you've stayed in one of those before, but they're convenient. They're better than like sleeping in your car.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I forgot that I have to mute the Skype line when I have you guys on, so that's my fault. And everybody was hearing an echo, but the echo should be over now.
So we stayed at a Hilton Garden Inn, and the bar's closed, the restaurant's closed, like the breakfast, and obviously there's no hot breakfast. It's just you can just pick stuff up. It's just different. I don't know. And all the employees were bitching about it. This is it's crazy.
The Hilton Garden Inns, they normally charge you for those type of things. So I always do the Hampton, but it doesn't matter right now because none of it's there. So
yeah.
All right, things to discuss today. We got a lot going on, fellas.
Do we?
For GPITS 112. John Thompson passed away. I've got some things to say about that. Do you know him?
It's been a bad year for basketball coaches from our era growing up.
Yeah, Lute Olson died last week.
Yeah.
And now John
Lou
Thompson.
Henson, Eddie Sutton, all this year.
That's a lot of 80s basketball Hall of Famers right there. Even 90s. Jay took a sabbatical from the bunker. I'm currently taking a sabbatical from the bunker. I would like to talk about that.
Okay.
Gabriel quit Twitter, and at least as of here just a little while ago, still is off Twitter. So, Gabe, we miss you. We miss you.
It's going on 36 hours.
Oh, how's it been?
Better than the previous 36, I can tell you that.
Neil quit Twitter at one time, but is no longer quitted.
Yeah.
Gabriel? Neil?
I noticed
made it
that.
3 days.
Wow.
So I'm halfway there.
Yeah.
Okay, college football was played last weekend in Montgomery, Alabama. It was big.
Is that where that Austin Peay game was?
Hell yeah, it was.
Montgomery?
The Crampton Bowl, the world famous.
Yeah.
President Trump, I've gotten a kick out of him pressuring the Big Ten to play. And I think the Big Ten may end up playing. We'll talk about that. You guys are the experts on that. Auburn has announced 9 positive tests last week, which resulted in 3 cancellation days, and then they skipped their scrimmage on Saturday for social justice reasons or purposes. The players were aggrieved by some things that went down in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and brought it to the coaches, and the coaches, Gus, said on the teleconference last night he supported them completely, and so they just canceled it on Saturday. Should be back going today. There are quarantines on every major campus in this state of Alabama. I know this because my daughter's friends with people at every major campus in this state, and there's a lot of kids in quarantine right now. My daughter may or may not be in quarantine right now. I have no comment on that. And then basketball. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gabe.
Como's setting records every day, so it's not gonna be long before, Mizzou might go that North Carolina route.
Okay. I like the Central Missouri Mules.
Yeah. What about the Jennies? Do you like them?
Where are they from?
Also Central Missouri. Those are the female teams at Central Missouri.
Really?
Yeah.
I've not covered them. Kim Anderson was the coach there one time.
He was. Yes.
And then basketball season
did better than he did maybe here.
Yeah, I would hope so. Well, he won a natty there, didn't he? Mm-hmm. And the basketball season, Neil, and both of you guys get moved at least to November 25th from November 10th, maybe as far as December 6th. And they're still kind of trying to figure out if they want to do non-conference games or just conference games. Can they do a bubble for some non-conference stuff? Like Auburn's supposed to have a game in Orlando.
Did you see where the NCAA has trademarked Battle in the Bubble?
Yep.
And they're planning to sell merchandise and all of that stuff? Can you be more tone deaf?
all this stuff about I can't put them in a bubble. They're students. That's just all gone. We're done. We're done with all that. We're just waiting for somebody to actually say it.
All right, you about ready to kick this off, fellas?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, at some point, Gabriel might have to bounce, at which time we can accommodate that. We don't want Gabe to feel uncomfortable if he got other things to do.
It's 4:25 now. We'll probably go to what, 5:30?
I got a good hour. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
All right, off we go.
Okay, I'm looking. I had pulled up that ad copy, and now I'm searching for it again. There it is. All right, ready? 3, 2. Welcome into another edition of Greatest Pod in the South. It's brought to you by Automation and Control Systems, LLC. I'm Neil McCready in Oxford, Mississippi. JG Tate running the show, as always, from Montgomery, Alabama, and our pal Gabe DeArmond. No longer on Twitter. We'll talk about that. Gabe now 36 hours into life without Twitter. I made it 72 hours. So, I don't want to hear any celebrations for another day and a half. Gabe joins us from Columbia, Missouri. We'll talk about a lot of things. Unfortunately, we're still talking about COVID. I just got through telling my mother that I never want to talk about COVID for the rest of my life. I'm COVIDed out. So we'll talk about some COVID stuff. We'll talk football. Auburn in trying to get back on schedule. There was college football played on Saturday in Montgomery, Alabama, between Austin Peay and Central Arkansas. I think Central Arkansas won that game. I covered a soccer tournament and then covered it. I went to one as a dad. It was like awesome. So we'll talk about a lot of that stuff and more. But first, I want to tell you about ACS. It's owned by Clay McNutt in Baldwin, Mississippi. Established in 2013, ACS is a complete electrical control system solution provider and a Rockwell Automation recognized system integrator. ACS has a full-time dedicated emergency service and troubleshooting staff and a UL 508A panel shop. ACS can custom tailor software packages, custom design electrical control panel solutions, and much more. ACS is a full-service AutoCAD services provider and a full-service fiber optic cabling solution provider. If you're in need of custom HMI and SCADA solutions or large horsepower VFD specialist, ACS has you covered. They can service and install Rockwell Automation, Allen Bradley, Siemens, ABB, Square D, and many other manufacturers. For more information or to get in touch with ACS, go to acsllcms.com. That's acsllcms.com or call 662-601-4381. I'm coming to you from the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. Listen, even if you're nowhere near Amory, even if you're not going to buy a car from Clark Ford, go ahead and get a quote. Corey wants you to get a quote. He wants to make sure that you get a quote that's going to help you not get snookered elsewhere. And you just might get that quote from Clark Ford and reconsider because it's going to be right to the bottom line. Corey wants to be a car guy. He wants to be a truck guy. He'll prove that to you when you make the call. 662-257-1900. Jay, Gabe, how are you all?
Boy, we're just great to be here, man. I get to share this screen with Gabriel DeArmond, our man from near Jefferson City, Missouri, and our favorite Missouri writer, at least for the last few weeks. How you been doing, Gabe?
I'm good. I don't have quite the enthusiasm you have. I appreciate the excitement there, but I'll try to ramp it up throughout the show.
Word. We've already gotten our first super chat of this particular GPITS. Kyle Wilson jumps in. Thank you very much for your support. No message offered, but he's been active in the chat, as have several of our supporters who are always here. Rob D, Rusty O, Georgia Rebel has been awesome. Avery personal friend of the McCrady's.
Yes,
Also in
sir.
the house, Stoop Up, Call Me Biscuit, a couple of our guys from the Auburn site. Thank you guys for jumping in and being part of we do stream this live on the YouTubes in addition to doing the podcast because we are down with technology, yo. We all may be 40 years old, but we still know the new stuff. Word.
So I'm curious with both of you guys, the season's supposed to start September the 26th, which is 4 weeks from Saturday, this past Saturday. What is this? Ole Miss announced the press box will be up to 50%, but everything is Zoom, which really is like, then why am I there? I mean, there's no reason to be there if everything's on Zoom. What is your game day coverage plan, if you will?
Well, I will go to 0 football games this year.
Yeah,
I know that. I'm basically just gonna try to copy Jay. He's gonna teach me how to be a technology expert here in the next 2 weeks, and I've got a few $100s of meat on the way from a smokehouse. We're gonna do a little pregame show. Got a local brewery for the postgame show, and I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
You're gonna like smoke meat on the stream? Is that what you're gonna do?
No, I'm gonna like grill it in advance, and then I'm just gonna eat it during the pregame show. And,
so you're not going to show the grilling process. You're not going to.
No, because I can't. I don't think I can carry my whole setup down to the grill and then back up to the office. I don't think that would work. Maybe I could have Mitchell Forty over here manning the grill with like a remote camera and just have him bring me my food as I call for it.
How would that work, Jay? You'd have to have a remote camera that was hooked up via Wi-Fi to the system.
I think it's possible to do that. Yeah, I do. But we'll talk about the technicalities of that because I don't think there would be exciting video to watch Gabe munch on meat. I don't think that would be fun. I don't think it would be fun.
How? I'm looking for the excitement. I mean, I will talk football. The excitement for me is eating. They can listen to me talk about football.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Very, very good.
And they will see this wonderful product and say, I got to buy me some of that. And the sponsorship will have worked. See?
Well, that's a good point.
I'm melding the best of both of your worlds here into my game day coverage.
Well,
Neil's the marketing guy. Jay's the technology guy. And I'm just trying to be along for the ride.
Well, if you're going to model what I did, you're going to need some bourbon, brother, because that's kind of how we roll here at
Missouri might be into a lot of those 11 o'clock kickoffs on SEC Network. I'm not.
So Jay, well, that hadn't stopped Jay.
No.
So Jay, on Saturday you did your brain drain. I've heard stories about this brain drain. More than 3 hours in, your executive assistant apparently called in and said it was time to put the wraps on the show. Can you take us behind the scenes of what all was happening?
Yeah, I mean, administrative assistant a lot of times is my co-pilot on the show. Just kind of gives me thumbs up or thumbs down when I start going on a rant about God knows what. But this week she was downstairs doing something else, and I think she was just monitoring on her cellular device. And she heard the conversation steering away from reason and saw me headed for a bad place. And so she called in and said, I think it's time for you to wrap it up, Big Daddy. So we ended up going 3 hours and 40 minutes. I mean, that's not a short show by any stretch. And we drank a lot of bourbon, and we told a lot of tales, and we talked about Auburn, and we talked about pretty girls. And, yeah, those are fun things to talk about, I think. I mean, just one person. Yeah. I'm just one person. As far as other things, just today, John Thompson, the famed coach at Georgetown, passed away. This is a big deal because Gabe mentioned in the pre-show, we've lost a lot of our great 80s and 90s coaches here lately. John Thompson, Lute Olson from Arizona died last week. Eddie Sutton died, it's been probably 2 months now.
Couple months ago, yeah.
Those are three of the really great ones. John Thompson won the 85 Natty, I believe. 85, 86? I can't remember what year.
84 Georgetown won. Because
Yeah.
they lost in 80.
They lost in 85 to Villanova, right?
Correct.
Did Villanova beat Georgetown?
To Villanova. They lost in 82 to North Carolina on the Eric Sleepy Floyd deal. But that was 3 Final Fours in 4 years with Patrick Ewing. But they won one.
And then 83 was NC State, so it would have been 84, right?
It's funny for a kid growing up in Louisiana like I was, those early 80s years, I was 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. those watching the Big East when it was John Thompson at Georgetown and Louis Carnesecca at St. John's and Rolly Massimino at Villanova and I guess Jim Boeheim.
Amazingly, Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. Yeah.
A young Jim Boeheim at Syracuse and
Rick Pitino at Providence.
Rick Pitino was at Providence because Billy Donovan was on that team that went to the Final Four. That's right.
7.
And they would play those games at Madison Square Garden in the tournament. And to a kid from North Louisiana, it was borderline mythical, to watch the Big East tournament. And I mean, like Seton Hall had PJ Carlesimo as their coach. I mean, it was kind of must-watch television. When those games would come on in January and February on CBS, you were just watching, and I mean, Boston College and all of those. The Big East, that was to this day, it's still sort of a bucket list thing. I would love to go to the Big East tournament and watch the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden just for nothing more than the sentimentality of it. I know it's not what it used to be at all, but it was such a cool thing back then.
And that league really made college basketball what it was. Like, I think you guys would agree. That was mid 80s to maybe early 90s was kind of like the golden age of college. Really, Magic and Bird in 79 to early 90s probably was kind of the golden age. And have you guys seen the 30 for 30 Requiem for the Big East?
I have not.
I've heard about it. I've heard it's excellent, but I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's really good. And I mean, basically, I think it was Dan Gavitt. It could be Dave Gavitt. I get them confused, but they basically started this league and said, we need a basketball league. We need a league for these schools that are college basketball is the big thing. And that league was what made ESPN become ESPN.
Oh yeah.
Because ESPN was showing like, roller derby and Australian rules football. And the Big East said, hey, we want these games on TV. And ESPN said, we'll put them on TV. And now, I mean, you got college basketball 7 days a week on TV. And that doesn't happen without the early 80s Big East.
I think the Big Tuesday, what did they do? Super Tuesday was always a Big East game.
The Big East was on Big Monday.
Okay.
It was because
that's
the first game was the Big East, and then the second game was the Big 8/Big 12.
Word.
So what I always remember about the Big East growing up as a Big 8 fan is I'd be like, how is this game in regulation? And it's already gone 47 minutes over the allotted time, and then it would go into triple overtime, and they would join like Iowa State, Missouri midway through the second half. Back before there were 19 ESPNs.
Was UConn in the Big East? Georgia Rebel asks.
Yeah, and that was.
Were they originally?
It seems like they were,
and they just weren't very good.
And maybe with Jim Calhoun there the whole time.
Calhoun made them. Yeah.
And then UMass was not in that league, though, right?
No, they were in the
Atlantic
10.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. I was real into basketball then, but as you can tell, I forget some things as we move along. I
just remember John Thompson with the towel over his shoulder, and he was such a big person by stature, and it was almost intimidating. You could tell his players. It always seemed like his players were almost intimidated of him. But then after his players would get away, like I was just kind of watching stuff today. Some people had put stuff up on social media, and the way that his players talked about him, just with reverence. Did you
see the Iverson tweet?
Yeah, well, I saw the speech that Iverson gave when John Thompson. I think it was John Thompson was put into the Basketball Hall of Fame. It might have been when Iverson went into the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He was talking about John Thompson, and he said John Thompson saved his life. Yeah. Because Allen Iverson coming out of high school, we all remember this. I think from Virginia.
Correct.
He was offered by basically every football and basketball program in the country. I mean, he was, obviously we saw him play. He was an incredible athlete. And then he had that incident, I guess, at the bowling alley where, he was charged with assault and I don't know what else. I think maybe something else. And everybody dropped him, including Georgetown. And his mother went, I think she kind of realized this was where he needed to go. And she went to Georgetown and basically begged John Thompson to take a second chance on him. And I remember the criticism that John Thompson took when he gave Allen Iverson another opportunity. But that's just kind of what he did. And Allen Iverson said he saved my life.
I was standing a couple summers ago, shoulder to hip with Patrick Ewing at an AAU tournament. I seriously think he's the largest human being I've ever seen in real life. It was unbelievable.
Wow. I didn't like John Thompson. I didn't like what he represented.
I didn't like Georgetown.
When I started getting into sports writing, which would have been my first story, would have been 95 that I ever wrote. Well, aside from I was messing around at Transy, but I wasn't really trying to be a sports writer at that time. John Thompson was like at Georgetown, and he had a reputation for being such a dick to reporters. And I mean, even listening to Kornheiser and Wilbon this morning, they were both like, "Yeah, guy was a dick to reporters all the time," and I'm like, why? I don't like people that go out of their way, coaches that go out of their way to be a dick to reporters. Not many of them do. But John Thompson was one, and the irony of it all was that he ended up being an analyst for, I don't know, TNT or TBS or whatever for a period of time, and he was good at it. But it's like those guys are kind of reporters, right? I mean, they're not truly like what we do, but it's similar. So now he was addicted to reporters for 30 years, and now he's kind of a reporter? You don't get to do that. I don't care if you're a Hall of Famer or not. So I hope that all the reporters he ran into then were real dicks to him, because pisses me off, man. It sticks with me. You listen to Wilbon today talking about all these great stories. Wilbon covered Georgetown for the Washington Post. He was a beat reporter for them back in late 80s, moving into the 90s. And he even had a hard time with Thompson, at least the first few years. But they ended up getting a lot closer. And Wilbon mentioned a lot of things that John Thompson did for him in his personal life, like when his father died, really went way above and beyond what any coach would do normally for things like that. So I think he had some good places in his heart and whatnot, but it's hard to get over the fact that he was such a grumpy person all the time. And I think he was kind of hateful in a lot of ways. Why?
Yeah, but if you listen to his players there's a different, because Bobby Knight's players say things about him, but I think Bobby Knight's a bad person. I'll never get over my opinion of Bobby Knight. But if you listen to, I reached out and got a statement from Conzo Martin today. If you listen to African-American coaches, it wasn't just what John Thompson did, as a coach. It was what he did for Black people in the sport, and for a lot of those kids, like Allen Iverson, from places that, man, those kids didn't go to Georgetown. I mean, he is revered by a lot of those people in the sport.
His graduation rate, was just incredible. And I realized, and I don't mean this as a slight to him, I realized that he was coaching at a time when one and done wasn't a thing. When two and done wasn't a thing. And Michael Jordan stayed at North Carolina for 3 years. Patrick Ewing stayed at Georgetown maybe for all four.
For 4,
yeah. And that wouldn't happen today. So it's not fair to compare current coaches to that era of coaches. Chris Mullen stayed at St. John's, I think, the whole time. That would never happen today. But it still stands that he took kids and it mattered to him that he did that they graduated. I think they mattered to him. The thing that sticks out to me when I think about him is on the court, though. Do you remember, and we all remember the game, it was the game that it's remembered because Michael Jordan made the shot that introduced Michael Jordan to the world as, hey, this guy's different.
Yeah.
But after that shot, Georgetown had the ball and an opportunity to go down and win. And if I recall correctly, it was Fred Brown. It wasn't Sleepy Floyd, I don't think. I think it was Fred Brown threw the ball away, threw it to James Worthy, who dribbled out the clock basically. And after that game, and John Thompson and Dean Smith were very, very close, if I recall correctly. And it was Dean Smith's first title. And Thompson went and congratulated his friend and then found Fred Brown and made sure that Fred Brown was, okay and all of that stuff. And then that next season, if I remember correctly, Georgetown went back to the Final Four. I think it was in Seattle, and they won the championship. And the first person that John Thompson sought out was Fred Brown. It was kind of his vindication. Hey, you can put that behind you now. You have a title. And even though that was his first title, and I guess ended up being his only title, he made it about the kid. That's what I always kind of remembered about him.
Georgetown basketball was kind of like Miami football.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they were the ones that everybody was scared of, and they were the bad boys. And dude, let's not sugarcoat. There was a lot of dislike for John Thompson and the program he ran and all that.
Sure.
That I think that's kind of the parallel.
Well, Patrick Ewing was viewed as the immovable force. I mean, they were considered unbeatable basically, and so obviously you cheered against them. If you either cheered for them or you cheered against them. They were Miami football. They were the Dallas Cowboys. They were the high profile team in the sport, with the exception only team that comes to mind that maybe had more reverence about them, that you either cheered for them or against them, was the Clyde Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon, Houston Cougars team.
Think about that as guys who loved college basketball growing up. You're talking 82 Final Four, Sam Perkins, Michael Jordan, James Worthy, Patrick Ewing. I'm sure there were a couple other NBA players on that Georgetown team. The next year they're playing Houston with Drexler and Olajuwon. I mean,
yeah,
dude, that's why college basketball isn't what it used to be, because those guys aren't in college basketball to play each other.
No, I mean, the Villanova team that pulled off the big upset. I mean, Ed Pinckney was the star of that team, and he played in the NBA for 15 years. I mean, there were those teams all had stars,
and they stayed around for a while.
Yeah,
played in the
you
Big
got
East.
to know a team. Yeah, and rivalries developed not just between the uniforms, but the actual players that wore the uniforms.
I do want to mention one thing. I loved Allen Iverson. I didn't love him at Georgetown, but I loved him in the NBA and then beyond. We all know him as the guy that bitched about practice, right? Are we talking about practice? I mean, Come on. We're sitting here. I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we talking about practice. But they're now on YouTube. They have the entire press conference that came from, because the whole practice thing is like 1 minute of like a 50-minute press conference. It was like the last press conference after a bad season. Well, it was a good season, but they lost, I think, in the first round of the playoffs. And so they trotted Iverson up there to basically wrap up the season, okay? And he was having trouble with Brown, his coach, Larry Brown. Larry Brown was not made available. It was just AI up there talking. And if you have a chance, go back sometime and listen to like a lot of that 40 or 50-minute press conference, because it made me a fan of Allen Iverson even more so. Because it's not all – I mean, the whole practice thing is selfish of him, and particularly when he says, how do you expect me to make my teammates better by practicing after we watched The Last Dance, which is like the biggest part of what made Jordan great, right?
Yeah.
In addition to being a great basketball player, he was a great practice player who made the guys around him a lot better. Everybody would tell you that. Paxton, Steve Kerr, all those dudes.
Yeah, the deal with Jordan, and not to get off your topic, the deal with Jordan, and the more you read about Jordan, the more that, and I mean this in an endearing sort of way, he was a psychopath.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to, you're not going to have, you can't program that into other guys. I mean, even Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, guys who had some craziness to them about their preparation. I mean, the closest thing that we've ever had to Michael Jordan in terms of that is Kobe. That's it.
Are you talking about basketball, or are you talking about overall?
No, overall, just their
Tiger.
Yeah,
Tiger.
Well, yeah, and I guess I meant in basketball. Yeah, exactly. I mean, where you were so focused on your craft and on your team and on winning and on dragging the people around you up, making them better so that you could win. You were so focused on it that you didn't care what people thought of you. Or you did care, but in the moment you lost your ability to care. I mean, it's Jordan, it's Kobe, it's guys like Tiger. Yeah, exactly. I get where Allen Iverson's coming from. I mean, his attitude was, man, I have left every drop I've got on the floor. I have carried this bunch of bums to the playoffs. I have gone as far. I took the 76ers. It was him and like some dudes.
Eric Snow, yeah.
Yeah, to the NBA Finals against Shaq and Kobe, for God's sake. I mean, he played out of his mind in game one of that series. Literally drained every drop of energy out of his body. There was nothing left. And they barely win that game. And he's walking off the floor, and his teammates are celebrating like they just won the title. And there's a look on Iverson's face like, hey, some of you sons of bitches are going to have to come along, or this is not going to end well. And it didn't, of course. The Lakers just crushed them the rest of the way. But, I mean,
I know. I know Neil's talking about Allen Iverson, but he's really thinking about himself on this podcast. He's like, I drag you sons of bitches along. I don't care if anybody likes me. It doesn't matter. Somebody's got to make this podcast good while you idiots sit here and do nothing.
No, but I mean, I'm not. No, not that at all. But I mean, that's what always struck me about Iverson is you can't ask Allen Iverson or anybody else to be like Michael Jordan. I mean, that you're either hardwired into that or you're not. I mean, you can't fake that.
He had the biggest balls of anybody I ever saw, though. I mean, he just fearless, like did not care.
Yeah,
and he was
to be that size and be that good in the NBA.
And he went to the hole. He wasn't like just jacking up from three. He did not care. He would go in against four guys. Did not care.
And let me apologize now to Dikembe Mutombo because he was a very good player who was on that team. So he was not one of the bums that Iverson was dragging. Dikembe was a pretty good player.
Bums. I love the word bums. It reminds me of like the 40s,
I know Jay's got a big rundown, but there's a little actual college football related breaking news here.
Oh, lay it on me, Gabriel.
Yeah, Ross Dellinger just posted a little bit ago that the Iowa State athletic director, Jamie Pollard, said the Big 12 has approved basically their COVID plan. Like we've been asking all along, what's it take, right? What's the threshold for what gets a game canceled? So in the Big 12, you have to have 53 available players to play a game. If you have fewer than 50, like the coaches and the athletic directors are going to exchange this information at some point. I don't know when, but you have to have 53 players available. If you have below that to play, the game's going to get canceled. And Ross's story this morning said it may include such positional requirements as 1 quarterback, 6 offensive linemen, 6 defensive linemen, 2 or 3 receivers, etc. So we finally have some idea, like we've been asking for months, like what's it take? Well, now we have some idea what it takes.
Yeah, well, I think it's doable.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, 53 is not a lot. You've got 85 scholarships plus 20 walk-ons.
So here's one of my
team base.
Yeah, so here's one of my questions. So they're going to test on, in the SEC I'm talking about, and I guess maybe everywhere, hell, I don't know. They're going to test on Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. Is that right?
Friday, I think, yeah.
Okay, so Sunday and Wednesday will be the swab test. Friday will be the quick rapid test. Mm-hmm. So if you test positive on Sunday, that means that you probably played the day before with it. What has to happen, and then what has to if you test positive on Sunday, what has to happen for you to play on the following Saturday? Because we're all dealing with these quarantines at these schools right now that I know they don't apply to football teams necessarily. Maybe they do. Hell, I don't know. Jay will be the one to comment on this because Auburn's got in the SEC. Auburn's probably got the biggest situation right now that we know of. If you test positive on Sunday, what has to happen for you to play on Saturday? If you test positive on Wednesday, is it possible that you could play on Saturday, or is that an X? And then if you test positive on Friday with one of those rapid tests that have a lot of false positives and frankly a lot of false negatives, that rapid test is not super duper reliable. It's not. I mean, if it were a presidential election poll, you'd go, well, the margin of error on this thing is like plus or minus 8%. So hell, who knows? So you know what I mean? I mean, I think that's more than fair. If you test positive on Friday afternoon, what recourse is there for you to take if you believe that, especially if the person is asymptomatic and they're like, dude, I don't have it. I don't think I've had it. I haven't been around anybody who's had it. I think this is a false positive. How would you go about proving that it was or wasn't? Those are 3 questions that I have, and I can't get anybody to answer it.
Nobody wants to answer these questions because they don't want to get painted into a corner.
It might be that they don't know the answers. It might be that those answers have not been established. But, I mean, as we get closer, and we're getting closer, I mean, we're 26 days away, I'd love to know those answers because I know that the people that read our sites want those answers. So when the word gets out that on Sunday, 11 guys tested positive, and I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it's seamless and everybody just rolls right along, but it probably is going – at some point, some team's going to have a, quote, breakout. What happens on Sunday? They're going to say on Sunday or Wednesday, what happens now? Hell, I don't know.
So you mentioned Auburn had 9 positives last week. They missed 3 days of practice plus a scrimmage, although the scrimmage was, I think, for social justice. Right now, this is not for the season, but this is for preseason. Their protocol is as follows. When you test positive, you have to isolate for 10 days, then reacclimate for another 7 until they're cleared. If you are in close contact with someone who is positive but you don't necessarily test positive, it's a mandatory 14-day quarantine. You cannot test out of it. Now, that's not for the season. That's for preseason, but I'm sure they're not going to just completely change it for the season. So I imagine that's going to be kind of close to what we see during the season.
Yeah, it's again, there's still a lot of things we don't know, but it seems like at least I would assume that the Big 12's taken this route, the ACC and the SEC are going to do it too. We at least know, hey, 53 players, that's what you got to have. And you've got to have a certain number at every position. I mean, if somehow, the week Ole Miss plays, I don't know who they play in week 1, but
Florida.
if somehow that week, all of a sudden, all but 3 of their offensive linemen have tested positive on Wednesday, like they're not playing that game. Even if you have 82 players available, if only 3 of them are offensive linemen, I don't think you're going to get into unless coaches go, no, we're good, man. I got this defensive end that can play offensive line. We're set. Let's go play.
Well, I think it also tells you that these coaches are going to be really pushed here soon. I mean, here in yesterday, don't conduct positional meetings unless you do it by Zoom. Don't do this deal where you get all the kids in a room or in a small area and you have all your DBs in one room or all your linebackers in one room. You're going to have to do those meetings via Zoom. You're going to have to back off some of that stuff.
And I think also I asked Drinkwitz early in camp, did you rearrange roommates? Because I don't want my top 2 running backs living together, right? I mean,
no, absolutely not.
If I'm a coach, I would be changing. Now, he said Missouri hasn't done any of that. Now, I don't know who lives together. I know it will shock you. I don't hang out and go find out who lives with who on the football team. But
what do you do
I
all
wouldn't
day?
want my top 2. I just mostly hang out and drink and watch YouTube videos, honestly. No, but you know what I'm saying. You don't want 3 of your 4 best players at a position that all live together, because then if one of them gets it, they're all out.
Yeah.
So I thought of my 4th question, and Jay, you can ask this here soon because you now that Auburn's got 9 guys, you said, or 8?
Mm-hmm. 9.
Those guys, when they recover, do they have to get tested the rest of the season? Because, I mean, the CDC says they've got immunity.
They're supposed to have 3 months.
At least 3 months of immunity. So today is, we'll call it September 1st. There's no reason to test them again until December 1st.
That makes sense to me, yeah.
So I have these 4 questions that I want answered, and I don't even know who to ask.
The other problem with it, I think we've talked about this before, positive tests can go on for a pretty long time, right?
Yeah.
You can test positive for 2 months.
Oh, I don't know about that.
That doesn't mean you're contagious. Maybe it's all getting better. I've kind of quit paying attention, honestly. But
there's a doctor on my site, Michael Cunningham, who's been great. He's posted these daily COVID updates that have been just so detailed. It's been remarkable. But he said that, you can do one of those, what do they call it, esophageal swab? That's not the word, but the swab where you basically stick it all the way into the back of your brain, pretty much.
Yeah.
Stick the swab, Jay.
I was like, geez, that's a long way to go.
Yeah. Calm down. He said, you can get basically leftover RNA, whatever the hell that is, that's 30 days old that will show up as a positive test, but it's not live virus.
Oh.
That's kind of my question. So you do one of those on Wednesday and a guy's like, man, I had symptoms a month ago, but I haven't had a symptom in 5 weeks. Yeah. To me, the whole thing feels like it's going to be so difficult to adjudicate.
I don't want to get too deep into this, but my daughter's dealing with this down there. I don't think she has COVID, but a lot of her friends do. And there's a lot of tiptoeing about, if contact tracing, you don't want to get known by contact tracing is what you don't want to do, because then they're going to send you to the quarantine dorm where you got to quarantine at least 7 days. A lot of them have to go 2 weeks, and nobody can come see you. You can't get out. You really want to avoid that. And so I think everybody's it's almost like a snitch situation. Yo, don't snitch on me. If we hung out and had lunch and then I test positive, don't be telling them I had lunch with you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it kind of works against it. It's going to spread, I think. And if it's going on in South Alabama, it's going on. I know it's going on in Auburn. I know it's going on in Alabama. I know it's going on at UAB. She's got friends at all these schools, and it's the same story. So
the message that's being sent to these kids is
don't get tested.
Don't get tested.
Don't get tested. And if you have symptoms, shut up.
Yes.
Don't say anything. Mm-hmm. And so those people then end up getting out and about. And that's instead of us following the basic guidelines, which is once you're asymptomatic, I mean, it's like 3 or 4 days, 5 days, you're good to go. We're making people, like someone said, Auburn, it's a 17-day process before. I mean, that's insane.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
You're not symptomatic for 17 days.
It's preseason.
You're not contagious for 17 days.
That's their preseason protocol. I don't know. They said they're not. They're not telling us what the season.
Once they get in the season, it's 17 minutes.
I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe we'll learn more about it by then.
He tested positive at 11:30, but game's not till 2:30. Man, he's good.
He's fine. We've only got 6-hour symptoms here, guys. It's all good.
It does make you sort of the teams that had the COVID breakouts in June. It does kind of make you go, hey, maybe you guys did this right.
Oh,
you know, I mean,
here we go.
If there's the immunity thing, I mean, in terms of you don't have to test for 3 more months.
It's also worth noting, though, that Auburn missed the scrimmage Saturday, not because of COVID, but because of adherence to some social justice ideas that the kids had, that they were bummed out about some things that were going on in Kenosha and maybe elsewhere. I mean, there's plenty of reasons for black players for sure, but all players to be dispirited by some of the things going on in America right now. And I think they took it to the head coach, and he said, yeah, I understand that. You've got our support. And so he said that on his Zoom last night. It was for social justice. So it's interesting.
Missouri did that Friday night. They skipped practice. Ole Miss, I don't know. Have they done that too?
They pushed the Friday practice to Saturday, and they pushed the Saturday scrimmage to Sunday, and they marched on Friday morning.
That's what Missouri did. They didn't actually cancel a practice. They kind of delayed a couple things a day.
It's okay. I mean,
but they're having a march Wednesday night here and all that. So yeah,
it's good. I think Alabama's marching today. I believe.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, as we record this, I saw the video a minute ago.
Good for them. I mean, you know,
I was joking with a couple of my friends that Saban's going to make his players do like high knees during the march. Like, it's cool. You can skip practice, but high knees there, butt kicks back, guys.
We can't waste his time, man. Hey,
Saban's wearing a T-shirt, by the way, that says "We all have immunity," and it's great. I mean, you know,
we all have immunity. Okay, changing directions.
The back of it says, "I told Greg we're not testing anymore."
Right.
No tests, no positives. I'm just saying. Changing directions a little bit.
Chant. That's actually the Alabama team chant marching down the no test, no positives, no tests, no positives.
No class. Get those students off my campus.
Yeah. You guys are yucking it up.
Trying to play football here.
So funny, isn't it? I'm just teasing you guys. I'm taking a sabbatical from the bunker, guys. I have not looked at the bunker since Saturday night. Not one single time.
I actually was on the bunker Sunday morning, so I've spent more time on the bunker in the last 48 hours than you have.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at it. I got to a place Thursday, man, where I was not doing well mentally, and there's so much toxicity on the board. And I mean, I can say this. This is maybe not the most appropriate thing to talk about, but I think we have, there's a lot of folks that listen that are of age and stuff. We had a poster on our board. Start a thread, and he said, hey, my daughter's going out for her first date tonight. I'm nervous. What, should I just kill this kid right now? Should I just beat him up? He's just joking around. And somebody goes, hey, yeah, I've got a solution for how to fix this. Why don't you break your daughter's hymen by yourself, and that way the next guy won't have to worry about it. And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you're going to tell somebody that on our board?
I mean,
he thinks it's funny. It's disgusting.
Sports message boards truly are the worst places in the world. Right?
So,
we can all agree on that.
I mean, it's that kind of toxicity, and that one statement doesn't really get me mad, but that was the one where I read it and I said, I can't stay here right now. Yep. Everything turns political, and I understand that COVID and politics are kind of intertwined, and then sports are kind of intertwined with COVID, so everything ends up being political. I'm really trying to keep that separated. I know Gabriel is too. Neil, not as much, and it's not a criticism.
I don't even know how. I mean, I've tried. It requires to eliminate all politics off. And if I did that in this past week, if I eliminated all politics, I'd be eliminating 95% of the posts that are about Ole Miss football, because we haven't had a media opportunity since Wednesday. We've had no access to watch a practice. We're not going to have access to watch a practice. So not only do you have the social justice thing, but as you said, Jay, we have the COVID thing, which allows them basically to eliminate us completely. And then on Friday, they march, yet no one's available. And then I knew some things based on another story that I was working on. I knew that the police in Oxford had reached out to the football players and said, "Hey, if you guys want to talk about this, police relations, let's do it." And the players said, "No, we don't want to deal with law enforcement." And so I was kind of like, well, you can't march and say one of the things we're marching about, although Ole Miss never said what it was they were marching about. I mean, people say, "Why didn't you cover the story?" And I went out and I shot video and I did all that, but I can't assume that I know precisely what it is that they're marching about. The only things that I heard them march and say were no justice, no peace, which in Oxford, I don't really know what it is that you're referencing, or maybe you're referencing a more general thing. And then they said Black Lives Matter, which obviously they've had those marches before. So is this another one of those? Was this prompted by something new? Was there more to this? What was it? These are all questions for you to be able to write a story about what it was specifically that you were protesting. You need to be able to ask people. And we couldn't ask because no one would answer and nobody was available. And so, of course, over the last few days, most of the posts on my board, even the ones that deal with Ole Miss football, are somewhat political in nature. And if you just start deleting everything, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. And I will admit that when it comes to moderating the message board, I'm not particularly good at it. And when I've tried to bring in outside people to moderate, it has every single time been abject failure.
Yeah. I took Neil's approach for a long time, but then I kind of I've hit a couple points like you're at, Jay, and so Saturday night was my kind of tipping point. So I just went on our board Sunday morning. I said, look, the season started Friday night. Like, I'm judge, jury, and executioner. I'm going to decide what's okay and what's not okay. I'm going to move what's not okay. I'm going to delete things. I'm going to ban people. And it's been it's been a good solid 48 hours and we're good. So I think we're past the hard part. I think everything's going to be smooth sailing on Power Mizzou from now on.
From now on. Well, I'm taking a sabbatical from the board. I just felt like my mental health was suffering.
Yeah.
Just around so much negativity and stuff. Some of it aimed at me, but most of it not. And it got on me. Well, so then, Gabe, you have bounced from Twitter.
Yeah. So what led to that, actually, like I tweeted on when I was at Central Arkansas game Saturday night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I've cut back the number of tweets I've been sending, but like I'm on Twitter and I'm seeing all these screenshots of the Central Arkansas Austin Peay game and everybody like, oh my God, it's great to have college football back, blah, blah. And I just tweeted like I'm just making a joke, just trying to be kind of funny. I tweeted, I said, I've got a confession to make. I don't like college football enough to watch Central Arkansas play Austin Peay. And like there was no like good for those kids, but and I immediately got I kind of just set it down. I didn't really even look at it. I woke up the next morning. I had 61 replies. I had people that cover SEC football retweeting me saying, "Oh, look at the guy that covers football that doesn't like football and doesn't want games." That I'm like,
"Oh wow,
I'm out, man."
Who did that?
Oh, it was some radio stations and some nobody I knew, but like they were like verified accounts that cover SEC football. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, that's it. I don't want to do this. I had on our board and on another Missouri message board, there were people bitching about my tweet. I'm like, all right, I'm out. Like, I don't need to do this. Any benefit that comes to my business from Twitter is not worth like Jay said, the toxic nature of it. And frankly, the anger that it caused me. Like, what in us says I really need to get into this argument with people I don't know and will never meet who are never changing their minds? Like, what's the point of that? So I'm done.
Do you think you'll really stay done, or are you like going to be a transient a Twitter quitter like Neil?
No,
can I defend myself briefly?
Sure, of course, you don't even. I'm not attacking you. I mean,
you can defend yourself.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem in our job. If you cover recruiting, it's almost impossible without Twitter.
Can you get a burner account, Neil, that you don't tweet out of or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I could use the Rebel Grove account and just do it, but you got to reach out to these kids, and they're not going to take a phone call. The only way to get in touch with them and to arrange a phone call is via Twitter, pretty much. So you just kind of need it for recruiting. Now, I think if I didn't have to cover recruiting at all, I might still be off of it.
Well, and that's what I'm like. I am on. We have a Power Mizzou account that I've set up a bunch of follows and stuff, and I'm tweeting our stories and stuff from that. I just have no personal Twitter account anymore.
Oh, okay.
And I don't really see, like Neil said, you can't not be on Twitter and do this job. It's literally not possible because the schools now, they don't send us press releases. They just tweet them. I mean, if you're not seeing that, you're missing stuff and you're not doing your job. So you've got to be on Twitter. On Twitter, I don't have to participate in it.
Okay. I noticed that Power Mizzou followed me the other day, so I figured that was you kind of trying to keep up with me then, right?
I followed all the Missouri accounts, all the recruits, and J-Tape. That's what I did on Twitter.
I feel so much better.
Congratulations, Jay. You can celebrate, Jay, with some old soul, man.
Well, I mean, of course I could. One of the great things about Cathead Distillery is that they have so many delicious spirits from which I can choose. Cathead, makers of fine spirits and champions of independent restaurants and bars throughout the Southeast. That's the folks that they work with and the folks that they love, in addition to their great customers. Obviously, you can get the Cathead vodka, which I call the Blue Cat. Sorry about that. That was a surprising twist there. It was me.
I thought that was me.
I thought it was me, too. I was looking at my phone like, who the hell
That was my daughter trying to FaceTime me during the show. The honeysuckle vodka, what I call the Gold Cat, the pecan vodka, the Green Cat, the Old Soul 90 proof bourbon whiskey, which I have some of right here. It's a daily drinker for me. It's delicious. 90 proof, kind of has a nutty taste to it, which it's pleasing. It sounds, for those of you who are not into bourbon, you might think nutty. What? It's good, man. It's delicious. The Bristow Gin, the Hoodoo Chicory Liqueur, which I discovered at our last live gig at Cathead. Yeah. Oh, man. It was real. I had not had that before, and I probably wouldn't have based on the name, but then I started drinking it, and I thought this might be the best thing I've ever had. I got trashed. It was delicious. Something else, Cathead is also tremendously in control of the hand sanitizer market. Their Comfort and Mercy hand sanitizer, 80% alcohol, antiseptic hand sanitizer. I have one bottle here. We're down to 4 left in our house. We bought like a whole care package of it. We put this in little aerosol things in our cars and in, well, not my purse because I don't have one, but my wife and my daughter's purse. Spray that all over your hands. Get it up there. It smells alcohol-y and delicious. I love it. And it makes me feel clean and ready to fight the day without any COVID. You can check them out on the Cathead Distillery website for that. They sell it in 5-gallon buckets. Also, 16-ounce bottles, 12-ounce bottles, and then the single-serve packs, which are kind of new. You can also check them out directly at comfortandmercy.store, or you can work that through the Cathead Distillery website. Good folks there, based in Jackson, and we love them and love their support of what we do here at Greatest Pod in the South.
We do. We also love the people at Pinnacle Trust. They're based in Madison, Mississippi. They've got clients more than 20 states, advisors in multiple states as well. They provide detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity and decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. So regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan built just for you. It's pintrust.com, PINN trust.com. Mention that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fee. We're also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis, Tennessee. Jay had a big trip planned this summer. They were going to go. This was pre-COVID. They had it all booked up. It was ready to go. Big trip to Europe. They pushed it back to next summer, I believe. Jay, that's correct. And correct. John set that up. He can set you up as well. Like he was telling me pretty recently, down in the Keys in Florida, that area, Miami, some of the resorts, that kind of thing. Rooms that normally go for $1,100, $1,200 are going for less than $300 a night. You can get great deals if you're ready to travel now, if you're looking to book something for the holidays, or if you're like Jay, already looking ahead to next summer to celebrate life in what certainly, God, please, will be without COVID, or certainly without this level of COVID, and we'll all be back to some semblance of normalcy. And you don't have to live near Memphis to take advantage of John's services. All you got to do is get in touch with him, give him some parameters, give him a budget. He'll give you a ton of options that you won't find on your own. 901-494-3387, or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Some breaking news here as we talk about this. Our friend Stacy Wall at Pintrust, Mr. Edwards, and Cathead Distilling. While we were doing that, Tyler Shelvin, the defensive tackle from LSU, has opted out of the 2020 season. That's 2 in 2 days because Jamar Chase, their ultra-talented wideout, opted out, I believe, yesterday. So that's 2 big players for LSU gone. And I wonder, is this kind of an isolated thing, fellas, or do you think there's going to be more players, high-profile players, are going to bounce?
There was the kid from, I know it's not quite Jamar Chase level, but the kid from Memphis that was 4th in the country in yards from scrimmage last year. He opted out yesterday, and there was a story. He'd had 4 family members die from this. I think there's going to be, including an uncle who was buried, I think, just a couple days ago. But I think there'll be more. But the interesting thing to me is not the number. Like, Jamar Chase, a first-round pick, right? Tyler Shelvin, probably first-round pick.
Yeah.
What about, those kids, honestly, it makes sense. I'll be honest, it doesn't make sense for Trevor Lawrence to be playing this football season. I don't quite get why he is, if you want the truth. But what about the kid who's Nick Bolton from Missouri, linebacker? He's probably a 2nd or 3rd round pick if he leaves after this year. He's an all-SEC candidate, really good player. He said he never thought about it, but like guys at that level are more interesting to me than the surefire first-rounders. Surefire first-rounders should be done with this.
Dang.
Jamar Chase should have had the option of going pro after his sophomore year. It's where I'm completely where people say, "Oh, you don't like the players." Well, I'm totally pro player. There's no reason Trevor Lawrence shouldn't have been able to put his name in the NFL hat after his sophomore year. He would have been a first-round pick. Why? You're making him come back to college for what? Why?
The spirit of amateurism, sir.
But those are the rules.
They are the rules. I hate that particular rule. It's one of the rules that I think the players, when they take their bottle of leverage and they pour it, I actually think they could get some traction on something like that. Instead,
except it has to be done with the NFL, right?
Yeah, but
isn't that an NFL rule? It's not an NCAA rule, because I know like the one and done is an NBA rule. It's not college basketball.
I wish that the NFL had some of the rules that the NBA has, where you can go out and get a grade and then come back if you don't get the grade that you like.
I also wish every sport had the baseball rule. You don't have to go to college, but once you go, you got to go there for 3 years.
Oh, see, I hate that.
I like that.
I hate that.
Oh, no, I think it's great.
I wouldn't like that for other sports.
Like Jadeveon Clowney, there was no reason for him to stay for that 3rd year at South Carolina. He would have been the first pick in the draft. I just think there are exceptions, and it wouldn't apply to many guys.
Right.
But, like Tua didn't need to go back to Alabama last season, and then his stock fell because he got hurt. It all worked out, but he would have been a top 5 pick after his sophomore year, in the same way that Trevor Lawrence would be. Jamar Chase would have been a top 20 pick probably in this past draft. In the draft coming up, he's probably a top 10 pick is what I read. So there's really no reason for him to stay another year.
But like to this year specifically, understanding that we can't change the rule. If you're, obviously it's not an issue for Justin Fields. He can't play. Lance, the kid from North Dakota State, isn't playing, but Trevor Lawrence, guys like that. Why play? What's the advantage? I don't know if Auburn has a guy like that. Do they have like a Derek Brown type guy this year?
Not this year. No, I don't think so. It's a little different. But, what if Derek Brown was playing right now? What does he gain out of that? Yeah, I don't know. Noah Igbenogany, he played his way into the first round last year. So, there's some success stories. But
right. So if you're like a 3rd rounder, sure. But if you know, hey, I'm going to be a first-round pick, if you sit out, an NFL team's not going to say, yeah, you didn't play last year. I'm not sure you love football. We're not going to take you. If you're good enough, they're going to take you.
Yeah, look at the Pac-12 guys and the Big Ten guys. Those guys aren't playing in the spring. The good players aren't. The guys that you're not going to play in the spring knowing that the NFL draft is the first weekend in May. Give me a break. No chance.
The President Trump has been pressuring the Big Ten on Twitter, telling them to start playing.
I saw a great tweet the other day. If and this is not like you've got to say this every time, right? It's not a political take. But like if you ask Donald Trump, name the football teams in the Big Ten, how many do you think he could name?
Most of them.
Yeah, he can name the
think?
teams. If you said name the coaches in the Big Ten, yeah, I think he'd be able to tell you the Big Ten was Michigan and Minnesota and Wisconsin and Ohio State and all that.
I'm not even sure I could get all 14 of them. Like, I always forget Maryland's in the Big Ten. There's no way I'd get Maryland.
I would miss that too. Are they really?
Yeah, Maryland's in the Big Rutgers.
Maryland and Rutgers.
Like Maryland plays like Nebraska and stuff?
Yeah.
Damn. How about that? That's crazy. I would have missed that too. I don't know if I can name all the coaches.
It happened like 9 years ago.
I don't know if I can name all the coaches, though. Some of those coaches are screwballs.
No, I couldn't. There's no way I could. But who's the coach? Who's the coach at Maryland now? Indiana is. I know Indiana's because he coached here. Tom
Allen.
Yeah.
Maryland is Mike Loxley. I know that.
Loxley. Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought his son was going to be a great quarterback, and his son was not even
Greg
decent.
Schiano.
Is Greg Schiano back there now?
He's back.
They rehired him.
Like recently?
Yeah.
Like
this offseason.
Because they were horrible last year, right?
Yes.
Iowa State is McCarthy.
Is not in the Big Ten.
They're in the Big 12, and they can play. Iowa can't play.
Dan McCarney has 100% not been the Iowa State coach since 2008.
Who's that? No,
that's not even made up.
I don't know his name.
Matt Campbell.
He's the young guy with the. He always wears the bill, the bill cap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt Campbell.
But yeah, they're in the Big 12. They're still going to play, so you can watch him.
Different league. Yeah, I got you.
All right, let's change the show. Forget President Trump. How many teams in the Big Ten can you name, Jay? Let's just do this for a while.
I don't think it's scintillating radio, but I can get most of them. I think. How many? Can you count them for me?
It entertains me.
Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio State, Michigan State, Nebraska. Did I already name them?
You already named them.
Can you give me some hints? I mean,
you name Michigan State, so there's another one that should go
another
along
one
with it.
inside
Michigan, yeah, the Wolverines, yeah. And then there's like the screwball teams.
Another school in Illinois.
Illinois, University of Illinois.
You named them.
Evanston, Northwestern.
There you go.
There's two in Indiana.
Another one in Indiana. You mentioned Indiana.
Purdue Boilermakers, of course. Yeah. Home of Ryan Newman, graduate.
Well, we just gave you two of them that you didn't know.
And then Maryland and Rutgers.
Nebraska, yeah.
So we're close. That's pretty damn close right there, man.
I think you named almost. I think you named all of them except Minnesota and Ohio State. And I assume you know Ohio State.
All right, so see, I got it. No problem.
Pretty good.
Not bad. I also
Matt Campbell coaches 11 of those teams, by the way.
Dan McCarney. It's Dan McCarney's grandson. I do want to talk real quickly about basketball season. The NCAA is talking about moving that season.
Hold on. I want to get you on record here because forget Trump for a minute. He's not the only one that's trying to get the Big Ten back on the field. The coaches want to get back on the field. And a lot of the people are out doing this thing last week that, hey, they could start in November, which is bizarre, by the way.
Right.
For the record, is there any chance, in y'all's opinion, that the Big Ten plays football this fall?
No.
I don't think they can.
They can't start
I think
now.
They're like pot committed. They look worse if they go back on it.
Yeah, a bunch of betas, man.
They got to play in January.
Betas. Sorry, guys.
They came out today and said they did have an 11-3 vote to not play. Which, remember that whole thing last week was like a bunch of the presidents were saying, I don't even know if there was a vote. I mean, that league's looking great every day, man.
Can we talk about Jared
Falwell?
Falwell?
If they play, I mean, if they don't play and the ACC, Big 12, SEC do, it is a god-awful look for them.
Hey, Georgia.
I mean, you guys know every single coach in the SEC right now is telling recruits those leagues don't care about football. You 100% know that's happening.
Sure.
Hey, we had a Georgia Rebel, one of our great folks on the chat, asks, who's the Michigan State coach? Got no idea. D'Antonio's out, right?
Bell Tucker.
Who is that?
From Colorado.
Oh, the dude from Colorado.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
He's the guy that was at a Colorado booster meeting the night that he was taking the Michigan State job, just lying out his ass, and then got on the plane and went to Lansing.
He wasn't leaving unless he was in a pine box, Neil.
Yeah, he Tommy Tubervilled him.
Yeah. We don't have much time left in this show, but there is a lot of chatter about the NCAA changing the start date for the basketball season. It's supposed to be November 10th. It's going to go to either November 25th or December 6th is what it sounds like. Most of that so they can start things when the kids are gone from campus. I think for most campuses, they're going to shut down after Thanksgiving. So that's going to be the end of the semester is right around Thanksgiving, and that way, at that point, you can almost bubble these teams in a way. I mean, their campus is going to be 5% full, and that creates a better launching pad, I guess. At that point, the only question is a lot of non-conference games, or you just go straight conference season and then go into March Madness, because you can control things better in March Madness, I think. Fellas,
and the whole key is like they have to play the tournament this year.
Yes.
I mean, this is not an optional thing. The tournament in some form, even if it's not 68 teams, what we're used to, the tournament has to happen. But, Neil kind of went on his rule change. I think actually college basketball should not start until January 1st. I don't think they should ever start it until January. It's too long.
Really?
Nobody pays attention to it.
It's not about you paying attention to it. It's about them getting ready, bro.
Yeah, I think
I don't need 32 games. I don't need 7 games against East San Angelo Tech.
Well, I agree with that. I think you're going to sort of get your wish this year. A week ago, I thought it was going to start in late November. I now think it's going to start more like Jay, you were saying, December 6th-ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I think that's more likely, and I do think they'll play some non-conference games because I think you'll see like Auburn play teams that are
like
within
regional games.
Yeah, where you can. Yeah, I don't like the big intersectional games that have been scheduled. I don't think you're going to see like Washington fly to Auburn and play a game. I just don't think that's going to happen.
It's supposed to,
but was that a real game?
Auburn was going to play Washington, yeah, but that ain't going to happen. No.
Wow, look at me! I should be a basketball scheduler for a living. I don't think it's going to be that. I think you're going to see 5-6 non-league games, and then like you said, they're going to play a big conference schedule, a traditional conference schedule. They might even do some of the conference stuff in a bubble. I mean, the NCAA patented last week battle in the bubble and stuff like that. They're planning to cash in on the word bubble.
Bubble.
And so if you told me that they do some 2-week bubbles where they take, 6 SEC teams to a bubble site and play round robin games, I could see it. I think the schedule is going to end up being nothing like what's on these websites and stuff right now.
They need 20 games. The thought is if they can get 20 games in, whether that's all conference or a few non-conference or whatever, 20 games is the threshold. You think at that point that's enough to judge and get teams in the NCAA tournament or not. So
yeah, I'll give you another wild prediction. Not that it's that wild. This is the year that 128 teams make the tournament.
What?
They do big bubbles. Instead of 64, instead of having to do a bunch of selection, you just take everybody.
I don't know.
Because it's like Gabe said, it's about getting the money. Add another round to the tournament.
I can't wait for the 2-week bubble with like Auburn, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Missouri, Florida, and Ole Miss with Barry Booker calling every game on the SEC network. Oh man, that will be amazing television.
The mute button is for that.
All right, guys, we'll probably wrap it up there. Neil, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea, Jay. Gabe, thanks for being here today. Jay, you as well. Thanks to the people at Automation and Control Systems, LLC. Don't forget, it's ACSLLCMS.com. Also, our thanks to Cathead Distillery, to John Edwards in Memphis, and the people at Pinnacle Trust. We'll be back next week. I don't know what the schedule is. There's no telling. This week, the Sunday thing was my fault because I was at a soccer tournament. So maybe I don't think we have anything this Sunday, so maybe we can all get together this time. We'll see what that means. But this was number 111, Jay. So we'll be back with
This was 112. This was 112.
This was 112. So we'll be back with episode 113 next week of Greatest Pod in the South. For Gabe, for Jay, I'm Neil. You guys take care.
All right, fellas.
Good job.
It was a pleasure sharing airwaves with you.
Bye.
All right, see ya. All right, there they go. Neil McGreevy and Gabriel DeArmond. Gone from the show. So sad. Thought it went pretty well. It was the first one. I'm going to change this, guys, really. I just got to figure out how to do it. Are we doing good now? Could you guys not hear me? That was weird. Anyway, sorry about that. I think I was babbling to nobody. I'm still working out a little bit on this new platform. But anyway, guys. Covered a lot of ground today. John Thompson, somebody that I was not fond of. But that's cool. He was great. I got a melee. I'm sorry about that. But he did a lot of great work at Georgetown. There's no doubt about it. And he coached Allen Iverson. He made it so that Allen Iverson was somebody I would have known because he might have just disappeared into nothing if it hadn't been for John Thompson. Yeah, sorry. That was my fault totally on that. Talked about my sabbatical from the bunker, which is still ongoing. I seriously, though, it's helped me. Like these last couple days have been better, a lot better for me. And you guys saw somebody jump on the chat and say something inappropriate earlier. Just like, yeah, that's just silly. Gabriel quit Twitter. Sounds like Gabe's pretty serious about it. Like he's going to hold on to that and just use the Power Mizzou account for recruiting purposes. And Auburn having the positive test, which to me it's not a big deal. I think they've handled it well. It's the way I would have handled it. And they're going to quarantine for a while, though. I mean, maybe longer than they have to, but I mean, there's no reason to go short on it. So, and as I mentioned, I mean, with my daughter at South Alabama, I know firsthand that there's just not a lot of what you don't want to do is get tested. Those kids don't want to get tested because they don't want to go to the quarantine dorm. Of course you don't want to go. I wouldn't want to go. You don't want to go. I mean, if you stay in your room, that's fine. But then your roommate, I mean, if she or he is not involved in that, if they're not somebody who's worried about COVID, then all of a sudden, you can't stay there. So it's tricky. It's real tricky. But anywho, covered a lot of ground today. And we got the super chat from Kyle. Thank you if you're still watching, bro. Appreciate your support on that. And we got a whole crew of, the usual all-stars. Melee, Ed D, Rob D, Leif. Avery's been in the house, too. I know Biscuit was in here earlier. Georgia Rebel. Just some great folks. Probably wrap it up there. It's a little later. Normally we start about 2 or 1:30 or 2. Today we start at 4:15 because McCready he's having to do some extra parenting duties right now. So we had to wait a little bit longer. So now I feel like I got to get it finished before administrative assistant gets home. But I do want to thank you guys for being part of the show, for hanging out and seeing what we've been doing on the GPITS today. I'm going to put this out on our various we actually put it to SoundCloud, but then it goes out everywhere. So if you guys want to listen to it again tonight, you can. Leif, I know you missed a lot of it, so you can pick it up then. And but most of you guys probably watched it, so you don't really need to listen to it again. But it's appreciated, guys. I think I'm going to run my sabbatical another 2 full days. I'm telling you, I was not doing well Thursday. You see so much nastiness, and it just makes you feel like everything's nasty. I don't know. It may not happen for y'all, but it happens to me. And another thing is, I bet it happens to some of y'all, and then you can bounce. Like for instance, take Melee, right? You're on the site, it pisses you off, or you just feel like you've seen enough. You just go away for a few days. I mean, that's good. I can't really do that as the mod, I can do it when I have Brian and Jeffrey doing it, which is what's going on right now. But I kind of have to do that. I have to set my foot in the sand and say I'm not going there right now. All right. Just saying. I mean, let's just be nice, guys. The problem is that I'm speaking to the choir here, though. You guys are not the problem. You guys are the normal posters. You are the good posters. You're not saying silly stuff. But there are people who do. Rob D says, keep praying for our girls. Hope they have a great college year. Absolutely, man. I mean, I'll take all I can get. She's not sick or anything, but there's a lot of girls around her who have tested positive, and, there's anxiety that goes along with that. There's anxiety with, even if you're near those people, are you going to get sent to the quarantine dorm, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just, I think that's the reality in college right now. And a lot of you have elementary school kids. If they're in school, you're probably fighting that battle as well. So, I mean, just thinking about everybody out there. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. Appreciate you guys being part of the show as usual. We'll see you guys next Sunday or Monday for the GPITS, and we'll be doing Brain Train on Saturday night, and of course OEP goes late night on Thursdays, I believe. So if you want to check out Neil and Chance the Yapper, that would be a great opportunity. Power Mizzou, we're still working to get them online, but I think they're going to be ready in time for football season. So if we have any Power Mizzou folks there. Anyway, guys, appreciate you. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.